Viewers, thank you for joining us on Diwali. A happy Diwali to all of you. We have an eminent panel. Dr. David Frawley needs no introduction. Dushyanth Sridhar, Hindol Sengupta. Good evening, gentlemen. Happy Diwali to all of you. Thank you for agreeing to do this. You know, Dr. Frawley, I want to begin by asking you, what does Diwali mean to you?
Well, Diwali means the awakening of the inner light of consciousness. It means the great dharmic traditions of India, of course, the connection to Sri Ram. It also connects to Ma Durga after the end of the Navaratri, for moving beyond darkness to light, and for just maintaining this extraordinary cultural, spiritual, yogic tradition for so many centuries and millennia, and awakening the world to its deeper spiritual and yogic destiny, which it is desperately in need of pursuing in these very dangerous and conflicting times.
Dushyanth Sridhar, Tulsidas describes Diwali in Ramcharitmanas as a celebration of Lord Ram's return, symbolizing hope and dharma. How can modern Diwali celebrations incorporate the deeper messages, ensuring they are more than mere rituals?
Pranesh, a very happy Deepavali, and to my fellow panelists as well, a very, very happy Deepavali. South of the Vindhyas, Pranesh, Diwali is a beautiful word, but we call it Deepavali. Avali in Sanskrit means a row. So Deepam signifies light. So Deepasya Avali iti Deepavali. So when there is a row of lights. So that's how we've been taught. And surprisingly, Pranesh, there are plenty of stone inscriptions that talk about kings, the Chola kings, the Pandya kings, having contributed towards this Deepotsavam. They call it Deepotsavam in the stone inscriptions. So that said, something very special about Deepavali is it is also called Naraka Vadha Dinam. Naraka in Sanskrit means Nrinam Prapayati Narakaha. That which is very auspicious, but it's very far for us. We can't reach it. Then this is the day when that auspicious thing reaches our house. Something that all of us deem very auspicious is Mata Ganga. So that's why we say we should have a dip in Ganga. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Bhagavad Pada and Bhajagovindam says, Bhagavad Gita Kinchita Dhita Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita. Drink a few drops of Ganga water. So Ganga is very, very Tripathaga. She's called by various names. And it is believed on the day of Deepavali, wherever she is, whether she's in Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, or West Bengal, or some parts of Bangladesh, it is believed that on the day of Deepavali, that morning, through the mantra that we recite, she reaches our red color plastic bucket. So Naraka denotes how Ganga reaches our houses and kind of brings that pavitrata to our houses, like how Ganga brings auspiciousness to all of us, clarity of thoughts. I just hope that this Deepavali brings a lot of peace to those war-torn regions of this world and make this world a better place.
Well said. Hindol Sengupta, in your opinion, what does this festival symbolize for modern India, especially in the context of the rich history?
Remember, Deepavali in my part of India, in Bengal, is even more than Deepavali. It's Kali Puja, and I think it's particularly important to mention this today when there is a resurgence of the need of the worship of Shakti in our civilization. I was surprised, after knowing the Ramakrishna Mission for 40 years. This time I saw for the first time a video of a Ramakrishna Mission monk who actually was talking about the need for Shakti and how India must go back to its roots of worshipping Shakti so that it can counter its foes and enemies and rivals. This understanding is very deeply needed in our civilization, in our culture, in our country at this point in time. And therefore, Kali Puja, remember, is the form of the Devi, when the Devi is wearing a string of skulls, and it's incredible that the Devi is now ruining and destroying all the adharma in the world, so to speak.
Dr. Frawley, Sanatan Dharma is said to be an eternal path that, unites the individual self with cosmic consciousness. How does this vision influence our understanding of individuality and community in modern times? And what can we learn from texts like the Ramcharitmanas, where Ram is described as Maryada Purushottam, as a unifying force of Dharma?
Yes, it's a very important point. The Sanatana Dharma tradition is the only tradition that really recognizes oneself in all beings, the idea of the Purusha as the entire universe, a single being, and the connections of all of us through nature, all living beings, sacred nature of all life. Human life should be yoga and sadhana. Human society should be one family with the universe. Our Western culture is far too anthropocentric, caught up in our mere human life and all of its politics and economics. We miss the transcendence. As Hindul said, we miss the Devi, we miss the Shakti, and now we're caught fighting with each other, fighting in ourselves, struggling for merely material resources, which we have so many. And of course, we have this need to overcome the asuric forces, the forces of darkness, the forces of ego, and to look beyond our individual and community and national differences to our greater humanity, which is rooted in that supreme universal consciousness, not just in any mere outer science, technology, or even all these social, political issues. We need to look beyond, go back to that supreme light. And Deepavali is the great celebration that unites us and allows us to do that.
Dr. Frawley, that's a great way of describing it. But, before we go any further, there's a question that I want to ask. We've had a debate domestically on this issue far too many times, but there are people who do not understand this idea of Sanatan as you just described it. As a Sanatan scholar, how would you convince someone who believes that Sanatan is like AIDS, leprosy, that Sanatan is full of discrimination, that Sanatan must be eradicated?
Well, it's very interesting to see that such people have never studied the Sanatana Dharma. They're trapped in colonial, Marxist, all these old missionary stereotypes. They're living in the past. They're not seeing India rising. They're not recognizing what other country has, even over the last century, figures like Ramana Maharshi, Sri Aurobindo, Manandamoy Ma, so many great gurus living today, a tradition going back 5,000 years where people are still chanting the same great mantras to the transcendent, to Ishwara, to Devi, to all forms of the divine. So this is a kind of very bad education people have received. And the fact that Sanatana Dharma is so rich, so enduring, it has overcome, it has endured beyond so many cultures and civilizations. So we need a new education going on, and we need to understand and honor our ancient sages and also create more modern rishis. And of course, the political issues in India, South India, there's some, of course, DMK and their particular views, which is all about promoting the divisions that allow them to have money, political power, and frankly, quite a bit of corruption. And it's important for them to recognize that Sanatana Dharma is the foundation of all the cultures of India going back to the most ancient times. It is not exclusive. It is looking to the higher potential in human beings and a higher pursuit of consciousness, not just outer materialism.
I just hope that, with this response of yours, the Sanatan bashing stops here once and forever. Dushyanth Sridhar, how does Sanatan Dharma, guide one in times of adversity, particularly through the stories in Ramayana where Ram, even in Vanvas, in exile, maintains his righteousness?
Of course, Prabhu Sri Ramachandra, who's called Maryada Purushottama, Dharmo Vigrahavan, Adharma Viratim, are sentences that extol Rama's greatness. One another Kathapatram that is often not, probably should not be overlooked is Hanuman, Pranesh. See, Hanuman belonged to the Vanara Jati. He did not belong to the Narajati. And he studied in a boys only school under Surya. And his acquaintance with women was very little. And he's suddenly given the task, go find Sita in a foreign country. So he takes up this task as a selfless mission. Apara, paravara, parikha, parivrita, parapura, parasrita, davadahana, javana, pavana, bhavat, kapivara, parishvanga bhavita, sarvasvadana, says Vedanta Deshika. He goes in the middle of the night to a foreign country called Lanka, spots the right woman Sita, gives her the ring as an insignia in remembrance of Rama, accepts her gem-studded hair clip called as Chudamani, comes back and receives Rama Alinganam. He receives nothing as gift, ESOPs, shares, kuch bhi nahi. He just receives one embrace. See, the point is, when we were going through a pandemic in 2020, 21, and some half of 22, and we are a country of 1.5 billion, and when we were making vaccines as a country, as a government, we just not thought about our citizens. We thought we should also help lesser privileged countries. And we did, through our Vaccine Maitri program, help so many citizens of so many other countries. Why? Because we are all descendants of Hanuman that way. Because like how Hanuman selflessly served Rama, going in the middle of the night, meeting Sita Devi, giving her the ring. Same is our case. So when Vibhishana comes seeking asylum in Rama's feet, stating that there is adharma in Sri Lanka, and please give us asylum, I see when we had implemented CAA, when minorities of the neighboring countries were persecuted and they sought asylum, isn't that like how Vibhishana came to Rama, to Bharatadesham seeking asylum? So I feel all these policies that we call as CAA, Vaccine Maitri, so on and so forth, they are all new names to us. But in our civilization, we have always had these ethos in our blood. And this is seen throughout the Ramayana and throughout the Mahabharata. So when every festival comes where we commemorate every scripture, for me, it just brings a beautiful memory where I have to unstaple a memory of our very rich past.
Now, one word that, perhaps sums up this idea of selflessness and righteousness is Ram Rajya. And Hindol Sengupta, you've said this in the past, that Ramayana gives us an opportunity to view Ram Rajya as a bipartisan intellectual framework. What do you mean by this, especially? What would you tell those who think that, just as someone mentions Ram Rajya, because it has the word Ram in it, it is deeply communal and polarizing?
It's very important to understand that all nations, especially if they're ancient nations like India with long civilizations, must derive their political thinking through the course of their own literature, their own languages, their own texts. Ram Rajya is, in the West, they talk about a welfare state. Now, if you really think about Ram Rajya, it is one of the most ancient frameworks of what a welfare state ought to be. Now, of course, the West defines welfare mainly in material terms, but of course, we define welfare in much more deeper ethical, moral terms. Ram Rajya's framework is entirely built upon responsibilities that align not only with the people who are being ruled, so to speak, but also with the Raja, with the people who are governing. So this is a complicated, intricate framework of responsibility and duty where everybody who's in that Rajya creates a composite to create the perfect a composite of duties and responsibilities to create a perfectly symbiotic society. This is a very profound idea, which I don't think we have truly, even today, properly understood. That this framework that only the state must provide and others must take, and that's a great social welfare state, is a limited idea of the social welfare state. Ram Rajya is a far more deeper, intricate idea of responsibilities and duties interwoven in the very body polity of the state, which allows for a genuinely symbiotic, healthy, composite social welfare state.
Now, Dr. Frawley, what is your idea of Ram Rajya and why do you think it is deeply misunderstood or misinterpreted, if you have?
Yes. Well, first of all, Ram Rajya is that our human society should be rooted in this transcendent vision, this vision of the divine, the avatar, also the unity of life, Hanuman's also Vayu, the connections to the greater universe as a whole, and taking us beyond, again, our limited human vision of conquering the world, converting the world, just making more outer things. We need that inner beauty, that inner devotion, that divine bhakti to make us look beyond and come together. If we don't have a transcendent level, we can't be one if we're just fighting over the same resources. And in the world today, we've made politics the ultimate, and we've made economics and money the outer world. And the outer world is rooted in duality, conflict, struggle. And we're alienating nature. We're leaving out all the Hanumans of nature, and we're exploiting the world for our own personal and social benefit. And what's happening? We're fighting with each other. The more we have, the more we're struggling. We have so-called United Nations, but in fact, we're all divided. Now, the countries of the West, here in the United States, it's the most divisive election that anybody knows and perhaps has existed, the most difficult or struggling name-calling and denigration of the other. Ramayana, there's tremendous respect, courtesy, beauty, linking everyone together. And Ravana's big problem is that Ravana wants to control it all himself. In that sense, we could almost say all the governments, or many of the governments in the West, are still Ravana of a certain era, wanting that we have to control, we have to own. And even democracy is now being used to say, we're democratic, so we have the right to tell you what to do. So this whole culture of sadhana, respect, devotion, pursuit of higher knowledge, pursuit of consciousness, one with the greater universe, we all need it so desperately, and it becomes a wonderful, beautiful festival in Bharat, and through it, Bharat is rising again, and I think providing a much better role model for the world. Look at Modi ji at the BRICS summit, how we bring so many people together. We need to bring back that unitary vision that is based upon looking beyond and connecting to our inmost self and all.
Now, Dushyanth Sridhar, to break down the concept of Ram Rajya, how would you define it? Just think about, speaking to people who have very little idea of what it is. And also keep in mind the kind of commentary we've seen against the concept of Ram Rajya. Like I said, people believe that because you have the word Ram in it, it is a communal concept.
Okay. Prima facie purva paksham. Let's assume that because the word Rama, who is very dear to Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism, is there in the word Rama Rajya, it is communal. Then what about our constitution that has a beautiful illustration of Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita? And what about Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham in LIC, that is a part, that very logo comes from Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of Sri Mahabharatam. So my point is, we should not look at everything, especially Ramayana and Mahabharatam, only from a communal angle. It is the treasure of Bharata Desham. It is a national asset. We talk about getting Kohinoor diamond from somebody's crown, but we are leaving our own Kohinoors, which is Ramayana and Mahabharatam. Now let's come very quickly to Ram Rajyam, mentioned in the Ramayana, Pranesh. First part in Ayodhya Kandam, when Rama gets to meet his younger brother Bharata, assuming that he has taken the role of a king, he asks, are you governing your state this way? So it's called Kaschit Sargam in Valmiki Ramayanam. So he asks about 40 to 50 questions. Are you ruling this way? Are you ruling that way? So when we derive those sentences, we get to understand how Ramarajyam will look. Second, when we understand the ministers and their names from Dasharatha's cabinet, Drishti, Jaya, Vijaya, Mantrapala, Sumantra, which means every minister had a role and the minister had to be clean to even fight election. There were no elections probably, but at least to be in that particular position. Mantrapala, Sumantra, the one who would give good advice. Drishti, the one who had a long-term vision for the state. So today, if we have to think about, ministers across states or wherever they are who are clean, it becomes like an oxymoron because clean and ministers don't go well together. That's the way we see Rajyam today. But in Ramarajyam, it was free of scandals, free of ministers. And there are, examples given, Pranesh, where it is said like how the waters are drawn from the saline ocean by the rays of the sun and then stored in the clouds and then given back to the human beings as fresh water. So should the taxes be collected from the people without hurting them and giving them back through welfare schemes like how Hindolji said. So this is how Ramarajyam is being mentioned. And when we look at such sentences that come from Valmiki, probably we get to understand, could there have been such an ideal Rajya? Could there have been such an idealistic king? Because we live in such unrealistic times today where, every day or the other, there'll be some law and order situation in some state or the other. A woman is being disrespected. And for example, we had to undergo a big incident in West Bengal.
Right.
And the way that woman was treated and what justice is being given to her. Probably if it were Ramarajya, Alankritya Shirachedanam, the moment they find that these are the culprits, a punishment would be given. It wouldn't go for years together. So we don't have to get to the level of Ramarajya. At least hemi Ramarajya will do. At least if we reach 50% of it, it'll be so much good for the country.
Dr. Frawley, how would you, how do you view this debate on India being a Hindu Rashtra? I'm sure you're aware of the commentary around it, but I just want to ask you, how do you see this?
Well, this is again the old communal, colonial, and attempt to take over India. India is a Hindu majority country. It is a dharmic civilization. And understanding it, it has a great openness, a great diversity. Every aspect of devotion, yoga, art, science is honored there. And it is looking to a transcendent truth, oneself in all beings. It doesn't need to convert and conquer the world. And it is not aiming to impose an ideology, a belief, or a faith, worship the divine as your own, in your own Ishtadevata, as your own self. And it's a very interesting situation because Hindus for centuries were under minority religious and political rule. After independence, they've also taken a background status. Hindu temples are taxed and resources controlled, but not churches and mosques.
Right.
Hindu Dharma in its history is not taught in the textbooks. You glorify the Mughals and the British. So I think there's a lot of illusions and distortions there. We have so many other countries in the world. We need a Hindu voice and vision, which is as Sanatana Dharma, glorifying the infinite and the eternal, the universe, the science of consciousness. Veda is a science of consciousness. It's not an imposition of a belief. Great scientists look to it. Get rid of that colonial hangover where you Hindus have to feel they have to please everybody. You can't please everyone, and please don't try to please Ravana. It's not going to take you anywhere. And remember the power of Viveka. It's not, you can't have tolerance and compromise about truth and falsehood, about all of that. So
Hindol,
let Nata Dharma arise.
Hindol, since we are having this conversation on Diwali, there's a lot of commentary around firecrackers. Now, you've also been tweeting about it. What would you, how would you convey a message politely to those who blame Diwali for air pollution?
I think the ridiculousness of this has been proved again and again for the last decade. All scientific research on this matter, and we must go by facts here, show that a large proportion of air pollution in Delhi and NCR really comes from stubble burning. Now, for years on end, neither the state government nor any other government nor the center has been able to resolve this matter of stubble burning. There could be vested interests which are playing out here, but the fact is it hasn't been done.
Right.
Now, to take that and consistently put it upon one day of Diwali people burning crackers is really unfair. You see, I want to point this out, Pranesh. Karwa Chauth just went by, and I was surprised to see that the usual voices this time didn't pipe up saying how regressive it is. Now, we are the only country in the world where Karwa Chauth is regressive, but hijab is a choice. Now, we have these really strange dichotomies in our country. I think we should move ahead from all this toxicity and truly celebrate Diwali for what it is. It is our great festival. And as a Bengali, I celebrate Durga Puja also, which is, Rakta Bija. Remember, Rakta Bija got a boon from Shiva that every drop of blood would bring
Right.
up other demons, right? Other asuras. So this is what is happening in India. We are surrounded with Rakta Bijas, but thankfully we also have Ma Kali, who will not only slaughter the Rakta Bijas and all its progeny, but also drink their blood and save our country and civilization.
Okay, on that
this
note,
I think
gentlemen,
we
I
should
thank
celebrate.
all of you, Dr. Frawley, Dushyanth Sridhar, Hindol Sengupta. A happy Diwali to you and to all our viewers
Happy
watching
Diwali
this
to everyone.
broadcast.
And let's remember Diwali for all of Asia and the entire world. It's not just limited to Bharat. It is a universal story. It's the basis of almost all the cultures of Southeast Asia, and it's a great future for all humanity.
Well said, Dr. Frawley. Thank you.